I've got some great trips planned this year that I'm really excited about. I'm hoping you do also, since that's kind of what we're about here at Amateur Traveler. Vacation season is nearly upon us. This year, treat yourself to luxe upgrades that you deserve with Quince's high quality travel essentials at fair prices, like lightweight European linen styles from $30, washable silk tops, and comfy lounge sets, premium luggage options, and stylish tote bags to carry it all. The best part? All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost to the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I love that. I'm setting aside my Quince travel pants and my cashmere sweater for my next trip to the East Coast. For your next trip, treat yourself to the luxe upgrades you deserve from Quince. Go to quince.com/traveler for 365-day returns, plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Amateur Traveler, episode 942. Today, Amateur Traveler talks about rides and attractions, lines and lightning lanes, Star Wars, Toy Story, and Mickey Mouse as we go to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler. Let's talk about Disney. I'd like to welcome to the show Podcast Hall of Fame inductee Lou Mongello from WDW Radio, who's come to talk to us about WDW, which is Walt Disney World in Orlando. Lou, welcome to the show.
Chris, it is good to see you, fellow Podcast Hall of Fame inductee.
The last time I saw Lou was at that ceremonies, and Lou is a longtime friend and competitor. I'd say competitor, except that I just can't compete with Lou. Lou just does amazing with his show. If you're interested in going to Walt Disney World, we're just going to scratch the surface today. But if you turn into WDW Radio, you can learn much more about the Disney universe. Lou, here's a question for you. I'm sure no one has ever asked. Why should someone go to Walt Disney World?
I think you have to. I think it's a rite of passage. I think there's some crazy number, like 87% of Americans have visited a Disney park in their lifetime or something. So it almost really is. And to be clear, there's a very wide spectrum of people that go to Disney. There are those people that visit once and they're one and done and they've checked it off the list. I am not the only lunatic that moved from somewhere else to live close to Disney and make it their job as well. But it's finding your sweet spot in between, and whether it's your first time or your next time going, there is a lot to see and do.
Yeah, Lou was a lawyer, but found that wasn't challenging enough, and so decided to try and make a living as a podcaster, but was one of the first podcasters I know to do it. Kudos for that, Lou. So what kind of itinerary do you recommend for Disney? I should say here, before we get into this, so there are some people who aren't going to this episode because Amateur Traveler is about going to Comoros and Timor-Leste and all these off the beaten path destinations. Walt Disney World is not an off the beaten path destination by any way, shape, or form. But I like Disney. And so when we were down there for the award ceremony, my wife and I went to Disney for one day. And I think I pinged Lou and said, help, Lou. They've changed everything and it's complicated. Where would you go for a day? But if you had a trip down to Disney World, what kind of itinerary do you recommend, Lou?
I'm going to give you the recovering attorney answer, because the answer really is it depends. Because it is, we're talking offline about this, it is, because there is so much to do, and because it is more, and I don't want this to scare anybody away, but it is more complicated, almost challenging to go to Disney, because you can't just show up and hope for the best. There is a military-like strategy that you need to have in place before you go, because you really do need to know how many days are we going to go for, where do we want to stay, what parks do we want to do on what days, and prioritize for you, your family, whether you're going solo or you're going in group, what are the most important things that you want to see, because there is a bit of a learning curve.
More than
Lightning
it used to
lanes.
be, even, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because you could just show up and buy your ticket and have your day in the park, and you might wait a long time for an attraction or be able to get a paper fast pass back in the old days.
Right.
Now you have to be able to know how to navigate the app. You have to know how to get a Lightning Lane Plus, Lightning Lane Premium. Where do I stay? What advantages do I have by staying on property? So there is a lot to it, which is great for me. It's why I've been able to do my podcast for 20 years.
It's true.
But I think you need to have this understanding. You're probably not going to be able to do it all in one visit, which allows you to go back time and time again if you find that it is for you. But you need to figure out, how many days am I going to able to go? And then what is most important for us to see first?
And let's start with timing, because we started talking about this before we pressed the record button. It used to be that there were times you could go to Disneyland, Disney World, and they were not busy. And I don't know if that's true anymore. There's certainly times that it's more busy. So when would you not recommend going if you could avoid it? Let's start with that.
July 4th. If you want to know what purgatory feels, go on July 4th with no plan of attack. Look, you're right. And if you're a shareholder, you're very happy that there's no slow time of year. If you're a visitor, not so much. And I think, again, this depends on you, understanding that some families can't go other than in the summer or during breaks. It is going to be more expensive. It is going to be more crowded. It is going to be a little bit more feeling like the surface of the sun in terms of heat. But there are these little sweet spots. There are these pockets of time.
There will be a thunderstorm at 5 o'clock, so it'll cool off. And I say that in all seriousness. In Florida, in Orlando, in the summer at 5 o'clock, there's going to be a thunderstorm. And I thought people were kidding when they told me that.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, that 3 to 5 o'clock window, you can almost set your watch to it. But you can find, there are sweet spots, Chris.
Yeah.
So when the kids go back to school in September, there is some time, a little bit like early December, and plus the weather starts to break a little bit. February, as long as you avoid any sort of holiday weekends, again, the weather is a little bit better. The pricing changes depending on the season. So there's value
and
season
that's
and there's high
new.
season.
They haven't done that forever. They started surge pricing within the last 10 years for sure. I can't
Probably
even think.
about 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's knowing when to go and where to stay and how to do it can literally save you not just a lot of frustration and arguments with your family, but can also save you thousands of dollars on your trip as well.
Okay, so you're going, if you can not go on a weekend, if you can not go in the summer, it's going to be cheaper. And unless it's like a holiday weekend, Christmas, it's going to be less crowded. It was, when I was there in the end of January, it was obviously less crowded, although we went on the weekend, so we had a little more lines. But you say where you stay, because you're getting up early and you're going there when the park opens and they drop the rope, but you're also staying on site so that you can get another hour for free at the beginning of the day.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of staying on site. And Disney now has about 30 different resorts on property that range from
30.
value to deluxe.
Okay.
And there's a number of advantages that come with that, Chris. One, you are within, and this affectionately is within the Disney bubble. So when you leave the park, your Disney experience does not end, because that same theming, the same level of customer service, the same feeling of safety and security and all those different things are very much part of it. So that theme park experience extends to you as you get to your themed resort. It also makes it easier to get back and forth because there's monorails, boats, buses, other transportation as well. There's also a great spectrum of different types of resorts depending on what you're looking for. And look, if you are somebody who wants to go on a budget, there are a number of different value resorts. If you want somebody who wants to do a little bit more or a lot more of a luxury themed 5-star resort, they have things like the Grand Floridian. There's a Four Seasons on property now. So however you want to be able to vacation, that if you want to spend the money, Chris, they will happily take it from
I'm sure they will. And what is the minimum amount? So let's say the first time I was in Disney World, we had roughly 10-year-old kids, 2 kids, family of 4, budget conscious. Roughly what am I going to spend for housing and for tickets?
So again, I don't want to give any sort of prices because I don't want to set any false expectations, because the pricing does change. And sometimes I'll go just to look at the pricing. And sometimes I'm amazed at what they are getting for rooms. Value resorts that at one point used to be under $100 are now over $200 a night because there is such demand for it. You can stay off property. There are a ton of off property resorts. Some of them are very nice, relatively close. You do lose a little bit, I think, when you do that, but there's also like good neighbor hotels in the Disney Springs, like the downtown Disney area. So if you are a Hilton or a Marriott member, you can use points. There's a jewelry down there as well. Also really nice, technically on property, but not necessarily run by Disney. I think you have to say, look, if there's 4 parks, there's 2 water parks, there's a downtown Disney area, there's a lot to see and do. I really think if you want to try and hit all 4 parks, you have to give yourself at least 4 to 5 days. And that's not even including any time just to enjoy the resort itself.
Okay. And you may also throw in an off day there to take a break in between or something like that. Okay. Yeah. And so we're talking about more than $100 per person per tickets, at least $200 if I'm staying on property for a hotel room. Okay. And pluses and things like that.
And for Disney, the more you stay, the more you save, right? Your ticket price, the cost of walking the door is going to go down greatly the more days that you spend.
Okay. And if I was a budget, do you have a favorite of the budget resorts? You mentioned the Grand Floridian if I'm not a budget.
So I really like Disney's Art of Animation Resort. It is a value resort. It's incredibly well themed, whether you have young kids or are a kid at heart. Plus, too, the transportation there is great because they have a Skyliner that will take you to other resorts. It'll take you to Hollywood Studios. It'll take you to Epcot. It's almost like a free attraction, and you don't have to worry about doing buses and boats and things like that.
Okay. Although the boats seem like fun, but
I love the boats. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then let's do the sort of call that I gave you. You've got one day. And I know this is a ridiculous question. I knew it was when I asked you, which park do you go to? First of all, do you go to more than one park?
You can. My first bit of advice is buy comfortable shoes because you'll do about 9 miles of walking a day if you really want to go open to close. I hate to qualify all this. If you haven't been in ages or ever, and you're trying to hit multiple parks in a day, you can do it, but you might not get the full experience, which
I think that's the general advice that I'm seeing from everybody is don't try and split your day. Right. At Disneyland, it's very different. You walk across the plaza to get to the other park. It doesn't take that much time, but you will lose time going between parks.
And money, right? It's going to cost you more to go to multiple parks. Pick the park that speaks to you, right? If you have never been before, you're nostalgic, you want to go to spend your day in Magic Kingdom, I promise you will not be bored, right? You will not be able to do it all. If you love the idea of Wandering World Showcase, if you want to do a little bit of amateur traveling in the Disney-fied version of World Showcase and hit new attractions like Guardians of the Galaxy, Epcot is a great option. You chose Animal Kingdom. I love it. Is a spectacular.
No, I chose Hollywood Studios.
Okay, which I love too. Right, so you have Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. You've got Toy Story Land there. You've got Twilight Zone. You have great music, great restaurants, and then Disney's Animal Kingdom too is absolutely a full day park and gives you a very different type of experience. But talk to your family, talk to wherever you're going, or look at the attractions and offerings that are in each and say, all right, this is the one that I'm going to plant my flag in and spend the day at.
Okay, let's just do a quick overview there. You did a little bit there. So Magic Kingdom is the most like the original Disneyland. And so I've got Frontierland, I've got Fantasyland, I've got Tomorrowland, I've got some other lands.
Adventureland, Liberty Square. Yeah.
I've got a castle. Yep. I've got the Matterhorn.
You got the classics, right? You have no Matterhorn here.
No Matterhorn. That's right. Okay.
No Matterhorn here.
I've got Space Mountain.
But Haunted Mansion, Pirates, Tiana's Bayou Adventures, a new attraction that just opened. Look, Magic Kingdom is still my favorite park, Chris. I am a kid at heart, and that is still the one that feels most special to me. So you don't have to be a kid to enjoy Magic Kingdom.
See, I'm a Disneyland fan. Magic Kingdom to me is a little less than Disneyland because they took some of the things and put it in other parks. When I go down there, I probably wouldn't go to Magic Kingdom just because I've been to Disneyland more times. Right. But it is the most like that park. Anything else new? You mentioned the Bayou Adventure. Anything else new at Magic Kingdom in the last 3 to 5 years.
The Tron Light Cycle run in Tomorrowland is something
Right.
that it's a copy of what they brought over from Shanghai. I've always been a big Tron fan, a big Tron nerd. You can see there's some Tron stuff like behind me in the background. It's super cool, especially at night. It's not the longest attraction in the world, but it is a great thrill experience for Magic Kingdom.
Okay. And then we get Epcot, which is the second oldest of the parks, which was built originally to be a permanent World's Fair, but that has changed a bit over time. It still has that World Showcase where you can eat pasta in a restaurant that's in Italy and see a piece of the Great Wall in the China Pavilion. Dude, is that what I should call it? That's what it feels like.
Yeah. So there's 11 pavilions around the World Showcase Lagoon, all that are not just representative of a number of 11 different countries, but are populated by the cast members there are from those countries. So you really do get a bit of a cultural, I think Epcot has this wonderful educational aspect to it for adults and kids, because you have this opportunity to not only experience the culture or like a little taste of it, right? A Disney-fied version of it, but the food as well, and talk to cast members who are from that country. I think it inspires a lot of people to say, hey, maybe we should go and visit Japan. We should go to Germany. Let's go see what Mexico, China, or Norway really is like. There has been the introduction over the last number of years of a lot of different attractions. So now you'll go to Norway and there'll be a Frozen attraction because, of course,
right.
There used to be an attraction called the Maelstrom, which I loved. It was very kitschy, but it was a giant polar bear and there was trolls and a giant oil rig. I think Anna and Elsa are attracting a few more guests than the giant oil rig in Maelstrom.
That's the biggest changes in Epcot here since the first time I went. It really was more like the World's Fair. It was much more focused on education, and now it still has that, but it also has some interesting rides.
Yeah, the introduction of IP, intellectual property, and Disney characters into Epcot is something that started really in the early 90s. Michael Eisner walked in and was like, where's Mickey? Why do we not have Mickey Mouse in this park? And I think over the last few years, to continue to attract younger visitors, which Epcot sometimes had a little bit of a tough time doing. So there is a Frozen attraction. There is a Moana Journey of Water attraction, which is this interactive exhibit / walkthrough, which is spectacular. There is Crush and Finding Nemo and the Living Seas. So there's a lot more things for kids to see and do. So it really, you don't have to worry about this feeling of dragging your kids through the quote unquote educational park, which has always been a misnomer, but I love Epcot. But I think Epcot has some of the finest dining too in all of Walt Disney World.
I don't know if it's still there, but I remember eating fettuccine Alfredo in Alfredo's restaurant, and he had 2 restaurants, one in Rome and one in Epcot.
Yeah.
This is the guy who invented the dish.
And they also have a Guardians of the Galaxy attraction, which opened in the past few years, many will say is the best attraction, not just in Disney World, but possibly in any of the Disney parks.
Do you say data or data? Well, at my house, we say data. And for the longest time, I thought paying a fortune on my monthly data plan was just normal. That was until I found out about Mint Mobile and their premium wireless plans that start at just $15 a month. The quality of the Mint Mobile wireless service is just as good as my old provider, but costs less. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. All plans come with high-speed data, or data, your choice, and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless and get $3 of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. No matter how you say it, don't overpay for it. Shop data plans at mintmobile.com/traveler. That's mintmobile.com/traveler. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. And thanks to Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
This episode is brought to you by Cadillac. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the Cadillac Certified Service Fresh Start Tire event. Visit Cadillac.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only. Highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
Now, how many Disney parks are there? Just to pause here. And have you been to all of them?
I have. So there's Walt Disney World in Orlando, the original in Disneyland. There's Disneyland Paris, Hong Kong Disneyland, Shanghai Disneyland, and the best of the best is Tokyo Disneyland.
Excellent. Excellent. And then, do they still have the test track, which is the fastest ride in Walt Disney World?
They do.
Okay.
Currently under refurbishment. It is getting its second
That's the thing I
refurbishment.
couldn't remember. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Excellent. And then we have, let's do Animal Kingdom. So Animal Kingdom is the only one that has like real animals, not just animatronic animals. You can go out and do the safari ride, which is the original signature thing that made that park different. But then they have all the other regular rides as well. I know they're always upgrading it. I think they started with Bug's Life, and I think that's gone away or going away, and they're adding in different ones. But I don't remember what the new things are in Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, so the safari really, for me, has always been and will always continue to be the key, the hallmark attraction there. It's the safari itself is as big as Magic Kingdom is, just to give you a sense of size and scale of what that is and what that park is. Expedition Everest is still one of the great thrill rides in Walt Disney World. Dinoland USA, we're about to say goodbye to. Bug's Life is going away in lieu of a Zootopia attraction. And really, I think one of the big attractors over the last number of years has been Pandora, the World of Avatar, which has two incredible attractions in it. One that gives you the sensation of flying on this mythical, otherworldly beast, which the first time I rode it, I had like tears going down my face because I had this true sensation of flight. I think Animal Kingdom may be arguably the most beautiful of all the parks because it is this living, breathing place that is not a zoo, but does have that sense of culture from different areas like Asia and Africa that are very culturally accurate, as well as great things to do again for kids. And again, too, some of the best dining in the parks.
And when you say best dining, what you don't get to eat the animals from the safari ride?
It's not, you're not picking your own animal as you're going through.
Clarify that.
Yeah, they have a place there called Nomad Lounge, which overlooks the water, which is spectacular. And even some of the in-park restaurants. Forget, and this is true, I think, with all the parks in Disney, and really, I think probably over the past 10, 15 years, they have so leveled up the dining, not just in the resorts and in Disney Springs, but even in the parks. You forget that you are dining inside a theme park anywhere. There's a restaurant called Takumi Tei in the Japan Pavilion in Epcot, and I've been to, we've been to Japan before. Right. It is so authentically Japanese. It is one of the best overall dining experiences I've had anywhere. And when you come out of the restaurant, you forget that you've been in a Disney park this whole time until you walk on the promenade and there's fireworks going off.
Excellent. Yeah, they have up their game. It used to be there was Dole Whip in the Disney parks and everything else was, yeah. But definitely. And I'm assuming any place that is one of those experiences, I probably want a reservation. And I do that in the app now.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, Chris. Again, if there's certain restaurants you want to eat at, as odd as it might, like when you travel to Japan, when you go to Paris, you're not going, whoa, we're 6 months out. Where do you guys want to eat? And we should probably place our order now. To a certain degree,
that is true.
You have to do that at Disney. So it does shift your way of thinking if there are particular places you want to go.
That's why you say you just show up. I feel like if you just show up at Disney these days, you're already behind.
Yeah. When I see people buying tickets, and this is a true story. I was in Epcot months ago, walking in around, it was like 11 o'clock, and I saw a family of four buying tickets at the front. I wanted to be like, no, stop. You're already too late.
Good fun. And then I say the last park, but we still got two water parks here. The other major park then being the movies, Disney Movie Studios. I still want to call it by the original name, which it doesn't have anymore, which is movie themed. And so I've got Grauman's Chinese, and I've got things that are supposed to look like the lots of the studios and things like that. But I've also got now Star Wars Land, or is that the right name for it? Or
Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge, and I still have the old Indiana Jones stunt show, which honestly, it's still good. It still holds up, despite the fact that it is pretty dated at this point. And then I've got Toy Story Land with a couple different Toy Story-like rides at that point, including a roller coaster and the shooting gallery one, which I thought is very good, which is an updated version of what was the one in Disneyland with the Toy Story, the Buzz Lightyear, ride or whatever. I thought actually the one in the movie park was even better from that sort of thing. If you're the competitive person who wants to get the high score when you're on the ride by shooting all the different targets, which I am. Tower of Terror, things on there. Anything else new? I think probably the Star Wars ones are some of the more popular rides right now, both Rise of the Resistance, which is great. Yeah. Really long line. And what's the other one? Millennium, the
Smuggler's Run, Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run. Yeah, and the thing that, look, when you step into Galaxy's Edge, whether you are a Star Wars fan or not, or know the lore of Star Wars, you don't necessarily need to, but you really are transported somewhere else. The placemaking and the storytelling there is outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. And things like Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, like Toy Story Midway Mania, there's a gamification of the attractions. They're no longer just passive experiences, because I think people, especially younger folks, want that competitive aspect. They want to not just observe, but they want to participate in and almost choosing your own adventure to a certain degree.
And I don't know if people know this, but there's 3 different roles that someone plays in the Millennium Falcon. You're either the engineer, or you're the gunner, or you're the pilot, and you've got different buttons that are lighting up that you're supposed to hit. And I'd say about 50% of the people who were in the ride with me this time had any clue that they were supposed to be doing it, because there's so much going on too. But
the kids like us who grew up with Star Wars would just want to sit in the pilot seat just to pull that lever and make us go into hyperspace. That's the thing that we dreamt about as a kid. And that's what this park especially, I think, does really well, is allows you to live out and create your own adventure. And I think we're going to start to see more of that. Disney's Hollywood Studios is about to go through a little bit of a transformation. Rock and Roller is going to close down and become
the Rock and Roll roller coaster.
Starring Aerosmith is now going to be starring the Muppets instead. There's a little bit of a Muppetization, because Muppet Vision is going away to make way for Monstropolis. There's going to be a whole Monsters Inc. land. Because again, Chris, the attractions that are being built throughout all the 4 parks are always being updated.
Yeah.
They're not building those attractions for you and I. They're building it for our kids and our kids' kids to say, this is what I grew up with. Let me show you what I grew up with. And it's this generational thing. It's the beauty of the parks is that they are always constantly changing.
And one thing I would say about Smuggler's Run is we talked about the Lightning Line, which I want to get into a little more later, but there's also, you can do solo riding on, and that's not available on every ride, but it is available on Smuggler's Run. So that's one that we did in one of those quick 5-minute trips instead of standing in line for 45 minutes.
I love you, but I'd rather just get through the line faster. Like I don't need to be sitting next to you.
Exactly. Right? That is quite correct. Well, I wasn't there with small children. I was there with my wife. And just the 2 of us. So anyway, and then we've got 2 water parks, and I have not been to either of the water parks at Disney. I've been to the Universal Water Park, love it, but I haven't been to the Disney ones. A quick word about one or both?
Yeah, so there's Typhoon Lagoon and there is Blizzard Beach. Each offer something a little bit different, whether it is in terms of storytelling, placemaking, the types of attractions that are there. You can really spend an entire day at both. They are theme parks that are water-based, and really some of the best water parks I've been to anywhere. I'm probably a little bit more, I also haven't been in years, Chris, because my kids are older. If I had to choose one or the other, I would probably choose Blizzard Beach, just because of the theming and some of the attractions and Lazy River and stuff that they have there. But they're both amazing.
I feel you don't have to have kids to go to a water park. I'm sorry.
No, you don't.
I love a good water park. I don't necessarily do the complete straight down drop sort of thing that puts water washing all throughout your sinuses, but love a good water slide.
I love some good shade and a lazy river.
There you go. And then navigating. So you mentioned the Lightning Line and the app. Mm-hmm. I know you've got whole episodes, I'm sure, talking about the intricacies and the strategies of that. But what are some things, if we're just doing the Disney 101, that people need to know about going to the park these days?
The very 30,000 foot top level view is Lightning Lane allows you to, for certain attractions, almost like having a reservation time that you can return and skip the normal standby line. There'll still be a little bit of a Lightning Lane line for you to go into, but it does allow you, and a number of those you can book that are complimentary. There is a Lightning Lane Plus for some of the e-tickets, some of the bigger attractions that are paid, but do allow you, look, time is money, Chris. And if you are here for just a couple of days, maybe you don't want to stand in, especially when it's a busier time of year. You don't want to stand in a line that's an hour and a half, 2.5 hours. It might make sense to spend $12, $15, $17 a person. So you can we'll skip that long line, go into the Lightning Lane, bypass the queue, and just have the experience and then be able to go on with the rest of your day. I've done that. Look, I live right behind Magic Kingdom now, so I don't really do that a lot. But I've done it when I visited Disneyland, or I've done it when I visited Disneyland Paris, going again, whether either alone or with my kids. I'm like, this was money well invested, because if I'm in for a penny, I'm in for a pound, and that extra $15 is worth it. And that's why figuring out how to allocate your funds, what's most important. We want to do more sit-down restaurants. We want to get some Lightning Lanes. Would we rather have a more upscale resort? That's how sort of your personal budget comes into play.
Yeah, no, I think we figured that out a little too late after we had waited in the line for, I said we were there in an off time, in a time that wasn't as busy, but we waited over an hour for Rise of the Resistance. I don't know, an hour and a half or something like that. And it was Florida winter. So that's not a bad thing. But in Florida summer, it's also very hot and humid. And standing in the line, half of that line would have been outside. And so you could see where paying a little money would be a good investment potentially.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I would say, and I know different people like to plan and vacation differently. This is where having a Disney specialized travel agent can really help you. I've partnered with one for 18 plus years. Like, they don't charge a fee.
Becky.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Becky. So I've been partnering with it. Their name is Mouse Fan Travel. So this is what they do. And they take a lot of that stress and anxiety and worry and confusion off your plate, because they'll be able to say, who's going? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? They can help you do those things, and they get paid by Disney. So you don't have to worry about it. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. But having somebody in your corner, I think, especially for something like this, where you are investing a lot of money, is really important.
No, Becky and I were on the Universal blog squad together. So they also do Universal, which we've talked about more recently than we've talked about WDW, but we're not going to talk about that today. Excellent. No, wonderful person too. Definitely can recommend her agency. So for the 4 different parks, just in Orlando here, what is your secret favorite spot in Magic Kingdom, for instance?
So for me, Chris, my appreciation of the parks and the way I've experienced it is evolved over the time. I'm not running in going commando style. So
you're not doing the park challenge where you try and ride every ride in Disneyland in one day, which I know people who do.
Yeah. Mazel tov. Like, you go to, I've done that. I've done it before, but now my experience is more just trying to soak it in. And I think Magic Kingdom is one of those places that I just love to go and people watch. There's something about grabbing a popcorn on Main Street USA, listening to the ragtime music behind, watching the trolley go by, and seeing those expressions on families and kids as they come in. That's what I mean. Like, there still is something special about that for me. Yeah.
So you're talking to somebody who, growing up, I didn't get to Disney that often. I got there when I was 4, managed to punch my brother in the nose in the line for riding the Mark Twain, as I recall, and gave him a bloody nose. We were arguing about who was going first in line. I got there when I was 10, and then I got there for high school, because my high school would do the grad night, where they would basically, graduates would have the park from midnight till 9 in the morning or whatever, all to ourselves. But I had the map of Disneyland up in my room for years, like a decade probably. So I understand that nostalgia, that enjoying the Disney experience of, it's clean, it is a whole environment that you get involved in, or multiple environments. You talked about going to the Star Wars land. I know our fellow podcaster, David Sparks from the Mac Power Users podcast, lives near Disneyland and likes to go take his laptop and just work in the Star Wars land, because he's got a yearly pass. Is there a spot in Magic Kingdom that you think people miss?
Yeah, I think each of the parks has their own little hidden kind of hideaways. And as you ask that question, I'm trying to think. One of the things, and you have to work to get there, But one of the things I love is that the Swiss Family Treehouse is still there. It is a no-tech attraction. You need to be mobile. You need to be able to walk.
Love the Swiss Family Treehouse.
Love the music. But if you make it to the top and you stand out and you have this outlook, you get this view. And if you time it just right in that golden hour, you get this view of Adventureland and Main Street USA and Tomorrowland off in the distance, which is just spectacular. If you're a photographer, that's one of those hard to get shots that I think is really nice.
And then one ride that is underappreciated in Magic Kingdom.
The Tomorrowland Transit Authority, the People Mover. There is something wonderfully just simple and comforting about it that I think for those of us who have gone for years, it's not just what we see, but what we hear and what we smell and what we taste. And I can close my eyes and I hear that like thump of it going over the little magnetic pucks as it goes through. It's a slow ride that gives you beautiful views of Tomorrowland and Main Street and the castle. And I think that's just one of those sit back, relax, just appreciate where you are attractions.
Okay. And favorite taste since you brought up taste in Magic Kingdom.
This is the lamest answer, but it is. There's something about the popcorn on Main Street that just hits a little bit different in Magic Kingdom.
Okay. So Epcot, same questions.
I absolutely love the Japan Pavilion. I love Japan, so this is as close as I can get without
chatting before this that Lou is heading off to Japan and doing a tour with the listeners of the show, a Disney tour. Lou, I do feel like I should bring up the fact that you were starting to step on my toes here. Once you leave the Disney parks, I feel like that was you got Disney and I got everything else. But
I will say, I think that our tours are probably a little less adventurous. You know, we put adventure in air quotes. I think you are a little bit more adventurous. I'm gonna have to join you on one of your tours because I'm very intrigued by what you do. But I love the Japan Pavilion, and for me, if I could snap my fingers with my laptop, I would transport myself from my office to the back of the Japan Pavilion, where there are these large bamboo trees. It's shaded. There's a little waterfall there. There's one of my favorite little quick service restaurants, and you get this beautiful, almost panoramic view of the World Showcase Promenade, Spaceship Earth in the distance. You can even watch fireworks from back there. There's a restroom up there, and it's very quiet and it's very peaceful, and you almost feel like you're not in the park. And Chris, every day I'm like, this is the week. I'm just going to get my laptop and go. And I'm like, oh, that means I got to put on pants. I got to drive. I got to walk. I'm like, it's just easier to stay home.
I'm now disturbed that you're doing this podcast without pants, but okay.
Vitamin Water was born in New York because New Yorkers wanted more. Like more flavor to go with all the flavor. A refreshing drink after climbing 6 flights of stairs to a walk-up apartment or standing in the subway station in 100-degree heat. Focus when I have an 8-hour shift, and Triple X after I was out all night at a club. Call Triple X. Drink vitamin water. It's from New York.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
You said hidden spot, favorite ride.
I think Guardian Galaxy.
Underappreciated ride.
Underappreciated ride? I think Living with the Land in the Land Pavilion is underappreciated because Walt wanted Epcot to be this real working city. It never really became that, but Future World really was this showcase of future technologies. And there's a space pavilion and there's Spaceship Earth and things like that. But the land is this real working biodome, and the things that are happening in there, the things that they're growing in there are being used in a lot of the Epcot restaurants. It's accessible to anybody. If you're in a wheelchair or scooter, you don't have to even worry about transferring in. Like a wheelchair can do it. And I love the fact that this really hasn't changed very much over time. I would have said Journey into Imagination, but I have a feeling it's about to get the very much needed update that we've been hoping for years soon.
Got it. And favorite thing to eat? I've got eat or drink.
Oh, man. Japan is such an easy answer for me, so it's going to be Japan. I just love, there are technically 4 different restaurants in Japan. There is Katsura Grill, which is almost like this little izakaya type restaurant.
Okay.
There is a hibachi restaurant, which is fantastic. There's a new restaurant called Shikisai, which I think it's probably for me a top 3 restaurant in all of Walt Disney World. And Kumite is what I was mentioning before. It's this very small omakase style restaurant that there's no windows, but there's these themed rooms to like earth, air, fire, and water. I've been to Japan. This restaurant makes you feel like you are dining in Japan. It is an upscale experience, but absolutely exceptional. It truly defines what a dining experience can and should be.
Okay. Movie studios. Favorite hidden spot?
So if I was going to go to the studios, I would probably sit on a shaded bench or a shaded table on Sunset Boulevard, just because I dig that period music from the late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
Again, same thing, especially during golden hour and during the holidays. It's spectacular there.
Excellent. Underappreciated ride or attraction?
Let me see if I was an underappreciated one there. I'm going to say Indiana Jones. We were just talking about this earlier. Indiana Jones has been there forever, and it is this very large outdoor theater stage show, but it still, I think, holds up over time.
I don't know how more people aren't killed doing that stunt show in any given year. There's fire and things falling and things.
It still brings them in. They still pack the house in Indiana Jones. So
I have a soft spot for that stunt show because not this time, but when we were there before, we sat down in that large auditorium, and sitting next to us was people we hadn't seen since college who just happened to show up. So you just never know who you're going to run into.
There's an easy small world joke there.
Yeah, exactly. And things to eat or drink.
The Hollywood Brown Derby is obviously inspired by the Brown Derby in California, but I think sitting outside, not in the middle of summer, they have a Brown Derby lounge outside. Again, if you sit there 6, 7 o'clock, the sun's going down, you have the music in the background, Christmas time is wonderful. You not only have access to the entire Brown Derby menu, but there's a Brown Derby lounge menu as well that has like incredible sort of upscale sliders, and that you can get the legendary Cobb salad there.
Got it.
That's probably my go-to.
I'd have to say we just 2 meals in our trip there, and we had lunch in Star Wars Land or Galaxy's Edge, and it was good. It was fresh food. It was just really a step up. But we had dinner in the drive-in movie.
Oh yeah.
Experience, and I don't even remember the name of it.
Sci-Fi Dine-In, yeah.
Sci-Fi Dine-In, and it's just hilariously kitschy. We did not get reservations, so we couldn't sit in one of the cars that you can eat in, with some with tables, some that are just regular cars, but they're showing just really corny 1950s sci-fi shorts or things from sci-fi movies and such. It was just fun.
Yeah, I dig sci-fi. Again, you're not just paying for the food, but you're paying for that sort of immersive type experiences. Right. And you get that feeling of sitting outside at night in Southern California somewhere at a real drive-in movie.
Good fun. Okay, Animal Kingdom.
I love sitting outside at Nomad Lounge. They have an amazing lounge menu there. You don't need a reservation. You can walk up. The secret's out, so now oftentimes there's a wait depending on when you go. But if you time it right and you sit outside, and you get this beautiful view of the river below you, and you can hear the sounds of Pandora across the river. But the food is excellent, and the cocktail menu is amazing as well.
Okay. And so that's both our bites and our hidden space, or is that just our hidden spot? That's
going to be my bites. I think for hidden space, as you make your way into Asia and make a right, there's a little, I don't want to call it a Coca-Cola stand, but it looks like it's this little hut from somewhere in Thailand But if you go behind it and you go down these steps, there's maybe 3 or 4 tables in this shaded area lower than the rest of the land, and it sits right on the water. It is incredibly peaceful. It is incredibly quiet, and it's a great place to take your laptop, have a beverage, whatever it might be.
Excellent. And best underappreciated ride or attraction?
I think Navi River Journey in Pandora, Flight of Passage, is the e-ticket attraction. It is the one that's going to make your jaw drop. Navi River Journey is a much slower boat ride. Think It's a Small World, but through these bioluminescent forests, and an animatronic that is the most advanced. I think it's like a $23 million animatronic of this giant shaman singing these songs. It's beautiful. It's immersive. It's this transportive type experience. I think really well done. And again, anybody in the family can ride.
Okay. And did we do all 3 there? Yeah, you gave me your bites in. Yep. Okay. Excellent. You have an amazing community of listeners. I've run into them with you one time when you were doing a get together. I want to say it was Las Vegas. We were there at some conference, and you did a get together that I got there. The best tip you have ever gotten from a listener of the show for tackling WDW?
See, Chris, this is why you're a Hall of Famer. You ask the questions that nobody else asks. The best tip I've ever gotten from a listener, other than to stop podcasting. No, the best tip I ever got from a listener. Oh, that's really interesting. Go back to practicing law, Mongello. Wow, I really don't know. I'm sure it has to be something dining related, because there's an art and science sometimes to knowing where to go and what to do, because we didn't even talk about Disney Springs and the shopping and dining there, which, it's Disney Springs, especially as a local for me, is like the 5th theme park. It doesn't require any admission, no reservations, but there's so much to see and do there. There's Cirque du Soleil. The Boathouse, which is my favorite restaurant in Walt Disney World, is absolutely exceptional. It has been my favorite since it opened. I think it's coming up on 10 years, probably, that it's been opened. It is beautiful views, incredible service, amazing food, but there's just so much to do now in Disney Springs, especially in terms of things like live entertainment, that it really is like the 5th theme park.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I haven't been to Disney Springs in some time, I think. What else do we eat? And you ended up dodging that question, but
I know, I'm still trying to think of it.
If you think of it, just let me know. What else do we need to know before we book our tickets, head to Orlando?
I think we touched on this, and just to stress it, I think preparing yourself and setting expectations is really going to help you have the best possible experience. Knowing that you're not going to be able to do it all, doing your research ahead of time. Don't think about it as that. I think that your Disney experience can and should start as the planning process continues. So whether you're going alone, whether you're doing it with your family, gathering around the table, pulling up the app, going on the website, seeing what there is to do there, and getting a little bit of plan ahead of time will not only make for a more seamless experience, but I think, Chris, if you want to test the limits of your familial bonds and love, go to Walt Disney World in the middle of the summer with no game plan and see how that works out for you.
We were in Disneyland in the summer, in the heat of the summer, and it gets warm, a little not as humid down in LA. And we heard a mother say in somewhat exasperated, heated tones, "How can you be so unhappy? It's the happiest place on earth." I'm not sure that was what I would recommend for parenting skills through Disney, but
I've literally heard things, and I'm somewhat paraphrasing, but like exasperated dads. There was one time, it was the middle of summer, coming out on Main Street, the fireworks just ended. It's super crowded. He's pushing the stroller. He's got the diaper bag and the purse and the backpack on, and he's holding the kid, and he's pushing the stroller, and his wife stops, takes one kid out of the stroller, takes the other kid like out of him, turns around and goes, "Take my picture." And the poor guy just throws his stuff down and he goes, "Can I get in one non-Disney word bleeping picture on this trip?" And I just felt so bad for the poor guy. He was that guy. You're going to have fun whether you like it or not.
I will say that there were times when we were at, again, this would be Disneyland when our kids were younger than the 10 years old they were at Disney World, where the best ride was the hotel pool at 1:00 in the afternoon and taking a break and then coming back to the park later on.
Yeah,
But
it is. It's always, especially in summertime, going back and taking the midday break, the midday nap will benefit everyone. If you're trying to do rope drop to fireworks, it's a long day.
it certainly can be. Excellent. One thing that makes you laugh and say only in Disney World.
Only in Disney World do you need to plan your vacation out 6 months before you get there. Only in Disney World. You know what, Chris? I think only in Disney World can you walk through the gates. We'll use Magic Kingdom as the example. And something happens. And I know, like, it's, oh, there's pixie dust. But you walk through the gates of Magic Kingdom and something happens. You forget about everything that's going on in the real world. There are no outside distractions. You forget about life and work and bills and stress and nonsense that goes on. And it just affords you the opportunity and ability to be a kid again, and in this place that nobody's going to judge you. You don't have to worry about anything. And there's something very comforting about that. And I think that's it. There's something reassuring and comforting about Disney, which is why we go back time after time. It's why some of us move here. It's why we podcast about it for 20 years. It's why Disney is the company that it is. And I think it's only in Disney do I consistently find they exceed expectations.
Excellent. There has been some upheaval in Disney management here over the last 3 years or so. So next year, they finally come to their senses and they put you in charge of the theme parks. What are the 3 changes you make?
So the first thing I do is retire day one because I do not want to step. Look, those are very big shoes to fill, not just because look, you're not just leading the Disney company, the theme park company. You're leading the movie studio.
They put you just in charge of the theme parks.
Whew.
Just in charge of the theme parks. You don't get to do movies.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, because it's a lot. And I love Bob Iger, and God bless him, and whoever's going to step into that role when he's gone. So you're saying what's the first 3 things
you would
that
change?
I do?
Yeah.
The first thing I would do is get the Marvel license back from Universal for East of the Mississippi so they can close their Islands of Adventure Superhero Island, and then we can finally get a 5th gate that is a Marvel themed world in Walt Disney World.
Okay.
That is number 1.
I didn't know it was East of the Mississippi.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's a very complicated thing, but that's why you have Avengers Campus in Disneyland and you don't have it in Walt Disney World.
Did not know that. Okay, excellent.
Yeah. I think, and I understand, the only way to limit the crowds
The crowds is with money.
is with money. I get it. I wish there's a way that we could build more to expand more, but also try to make it as affordable for people as possible. I hate somebody saying, I can't go to Disney because it's too expensive. And this is not meant to sound like a plug because it's been years, but like I wrote a book called 102 Ways to Save Money at Walt Disney World because for years that has been and continues to be the number one question. We want to go, but we think it's too expensive. It's not. There are ways that you can do it and you can go on a budget and still have an amazing time. And I want to try and continue to make it as affordable and accessible in every sort of definition of the word accessible to people as possible.
And number 3.
Wow, these are such good questions. I think that I would expand World Showcase to finally add some additional countries. I would bring in places like Egypt. I would bring in Greece. I would bring in India, not just because of the iconic structures that would be there, but because of the culture and the food and I think the education that we could get. Yeah, blow out the back of World Showcase, almost add a second lagoon and add a number of different countries. All right, I'm going to flip the switch. If you could add, since you have traveled the world, if you could add one country to Epcot's World Showcase, what would it be and why?
You're assuming that I remember what the countries that are there now are. Egypt seems like I would completely be interested in that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Greece, see Greece for the food. See, even if you didn't have a little Parthenon or whatever, I like my Greek food better than my Egyptian food there. But yeah, there's also a real world out there too that we can go visit. But that's again, that's my territory. Hey, the listeners of the show vote on where we go. If they vote Disney World, we'll go to Disney World. Nice. It's really up to them. They voted Cuba last time, and It looks like it's going to be the Stands or Namibia this time, but we'll see. By the time this comes out, that decision will have been made.
I don't even know where either of those places are, but I'm just impressed that nonetheless.
Excellent. Our guest again has been Lou Mongello, the world famous podcaster, Podcast Hall of Fame, my friend, wonderful podcaster. Check out WDW Radio if you're wanting to know more about Disney and Disney all over the world. So, Lou, thanks so much for coming on Amateur Traveler. It's a great talking to you as always. Oh, I usually ask people if you had to summarize Walt Disney World in 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
Magical.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Okay.
And heartwarming.
Excellent. Lou, thanks for coming on Amateur Traveler,
Thanks
sharing
for
with
having
us
me, Chris.
your obvious love and passion for Walt Disney World and all things Disney.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate you inviting me on. We've known each other a long time. You've always been so kind to me, and I really appreciate you.
A special thanks to the patrons of the show who help support Amateur Traveler financially. This is my day job now, and I do appreciate their help. If you're interested in learning more what you can get by being a patron of the show, which include a monthly Zoom call, we're going to do one this Saturday, the day this comes out, as well as getting the show early and ad-free, then go to patreon.com/amateurtraveler. New on the Amateur Traveler website since the last time I've done an episode is a 4-day Nashville itinerary, as well as a post about discovering Happy Hollows Park and Zoo in San Jose, which is my hometown. As this episode comes out, I'll be in Japan, and you will be hearing more about that. I'm doing a walk with Walk Japan, and looking forward to that. You'll hear more about that. That also means that I'll be taking a 1 week off. I usually try and take 4 weeks off a year from putting out a new episode, and one of those will be next episode. I got an email from Perry. Perry says, "My name is Perry. I'm both a Christian and an amateur traveler myself, but without a blog/podcast. I've been listening to your Bible study podcast for many years. I probably listened to most of the episodes over the years. Then a few years ago, I learned of your Amateur Traveler podcast. I listened to a bunch of those as well. As life goes, I kind of lost track of your podcasts. However, a few weeks ago, I was traveling transatlantic on American Airlines, and lo and behold, the Amateur Traveler podcast was on their seat back entertainment portal. I was able to fill about 5 hours of the flight with some great podcasting content. You are officially big time. Look out, Rick Steves." Thanks, Perry. I don't think Rick Steves has anything to fear from me. A couple of things there. One is I do another podcast, which is the Bible Study Podcast, and you can check that out at thebiblestudypodcast.com as Perry did. But also, yes, actually, Amateur Traveler in Q1 of 2025 was on 7 different airlines' seat-back entertainment systems. 22 episodes in all were shown on those various airlines over the last 3 months before this came out, and that includes Air India, Singapore Airlines, American Airlines, Oman, and 3 others that I can't think of off the top of my head. So that's pretty cool news, and I actually do get paid for that too, which is nice as well. Signups are still available if you're interested in joining me in Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan in 2026. You can find more information by going to amateurtraveler.com/trips. And with that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, send an email to chris2x@gmail.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com. And thanks so much for listening.
I got to see one more cathedral. I got to sit in one more cafe. I know that I should